As the long-awaited Game of Thrones sequel, House of the Dragon, is currently airing on HBO, initial reviews have been mainly positive. However, you can't please everybody, and some people have gone in on the show for what has been seen as a slightly lazy flaw relating to the original show. Today we're discussing complaints that House of the Dragon should have its own theme song. So stay right where you are. Let's get into it then. What's been said? It's safe to say that the iconic Game of Thrones theme tune has a certain allure. So many have suggested that not using the same music for House of the Dragon, a prequel show set in the exact same universe as the critically acclaimed original, would have been a bit of an own goal. The music has brand recognition, but of course, you can't satisfy everyone, and a small minority are bound to complain. The music is uplifting and sets the viewer up for an hour of bloodshed, plotting, and betrayal, which most fans have welcomed back with open arms. But a select few have accused bosses of a nostalgia grab by recycling it for HOTD. Some have even gone harder, accusing the show's creative minds of not allowing it to stand on its own. But it doesn't need to. Everybody knows exactly what House of the Dragon is, and most are happy for a quick trip down memory lane as an introduction to a show which sets the scene for everything that came later in Game of Thrones. Critics have also suggested that a new theme tune would have brought a new sense of identity with it for the prequel show, while also claiming that by using the Game of Thrones music, the show's creators are basically depriving us of immersing ourselves fully into House of the Dragon. We couldn't disagree more. Which side of the fence do you sit on? Let us know below. What else are critics saying then? Stay tuned to find out. Well, some have even suggested that the theme song could actually confuse people. They argue that by having the exact same music as its predecessor, fans might actually think they are tuning into an episode of Game of Thrones. I mean, critics really must think they are a head and shoulders above regular viewers in the games of intellect. Am I right? Of course, the theme tune is accompanied with an outline of the Targaryen family tree during the opening credits, so it's completely obvious that the House of the Dragon is about to come on, but that hasn't stopped detractors claiming it creates some sort of cognitive dissonance. It has recently been revealed that the creator of the original theme tune, Ramin Djawadi, had actually penned several Targaryen-specific pieces for the new show, but it was eventually decided that they would go with the tried and tested theme tune, which again, most fans love. However, further criticisms have suggested that this also sets a precedent for any future spin-offs. Will they all now have the same theme song? I mean, we hope so. And of course, it will give these critics who like to nitpick something to complain about, right? Further criticisms have claimed that the House of the Dragon is trying too hard to connect to what came before. But isn't that the idea? I mean, it's a prequel show. No mention whatsoever of anything to do with the original would just be plain weird. Give us your thoughts below. Next up, some reports have suggested that Melisandre could be set to appear in HOTD. Stay with us. Melisandre, aka the Red Witch, was one of the most scandalous characters in Game of Thrones. After burning Stannis Baratheon's daughter Shireen at the stake in order to curry favor with the Red God, she went on to serve Jon Snow until she was eventually banished after he also learned of her part in Shireen's death. And some Game of Thrones enthusiasts have since suggested that she could pop up in House of the Dragon, given the fact that she appears not only to be old, but also immortal. We know the current show is set 175 years before the events of the original, so could Melisandre actually drop in at some point? Her backstory suggests that she actually could. We know she is a Rahilor priest who would almost certainly have been around during the events of House of the Dragon, and responding to a question surrounding the issue recently, the actress who plays her, Carice Van Hout, seemed to be on board with the idea that she could and should return. However, we're not sure she would have been in Westeros at this time in history. The actress said, well, it would really depend on the storyline. I would be interested if we could see a completely different side to her. It would have to be an interesting perspective that we haven't seen before. Otherwise, I feel like I've closed it off in a natural way, which is also a good thing. Would you like to see Melisandre return? And now, the second season has already been greenlit. Stay with us. Somewhat unsurprisingly, the House of the Dragon has already been given the go-ahead for a second season. After the first episode dropped a few weeks ago, HBO quickly announced that they would be developing a second season almost immediately, and it's easy to see why. House of the Dragon Episode 1 attracted the largest audience for any original new series in HBO history, and this is the broadcaster roster, which was home to The Sopranos. Francesca Orsi, executive vice president of programming over at HBO, had this to say: "We are beyond proud of what the entire House of the Dragon team has accomplished with Season 1. Our phenomenal cast and crew undertook a massive challenge and exceeded all expectations, delivering a show that has already established itself as must-see TV. That's no exaggeration either. Game of Thrones' immense fan base were eager to get stuck into a House of the Dragon from the very first time they heard of it. We couldn't be more excited to continue bringing to life the epic saga of House Targaryen with Season 2. We cannot wait for it either, and we haven't even gotten to midway through Season 1 yet. It is thought the key cast will all return, possibly except for the younger characters, who will of course grow up somewhat when Season 2 rolls around. Are you guys enjoying House of the Dragon so far? Matt Smith has revealed a pretty funny story from filming next. Don't go anywhere. Of course, Smith plays the treacherous Prince Daemon on House of the Dragon, who has his sights set on Viserys' crown once his older brother is out of the picture. This sets off a chain of events, which ultimately takes House Targaryen to the brink of complete destruction. And Smith, who also counts British classic Doctor Who as part of his stellar CV, has recently been discussing just how difficult filming was. Night shoots, horrendous weather, and staged fights were the order of the day when filming HOTD. But Smith has also outlined how he got through these difficult and taxing times, sharing a pretty funny little anecdote from the set. Smith is actually one of the older actors on set and appears in many scenes opposite relative newcomer Fabian Frankel, who plays Sir Criston Cole, and it's Frankel who stars in Smith's hilarious story. He said, "We laughed our off because you have to, even if it was just laughing at Fabian trying to sit down in the armor. That gave me such joy every day. Poor Fabian, bless him. He was in the armor the whole time, and that's not easy, but there were some wonderful big characters on that set. I mean, attempting to sit down in armor must have been a nightmare. It would have been worse to have to take it off and put it back on again, so it must have been pretty funny to have been privy to all that." What do you make of Smith's words? And finally, fans think they figured out what's wrong with King Viserys. As we've seen from the very first episodes, King Viserys has been suffering from a mystery illness, which maesters have worked tirelessly to combat. Some fans assumed it was the fictional disease dragonpox, but that is thought to be highly contagious, and Viserys' illness does not seem to be. So what's actually going on with the king? Some fans believe that the Iron Throne itself could be to blame for Viserys' back sores. I mean, it would make sense, right? It would also make a mockery of King Viserys and his advisors having any sort of intelligence, as this would surely be the first thing people think of. However, Viserys in fact complained of being cut by the throne in an earlier episode, but one fan believes they've cracked it and that Viserys is actually suffering from a real ailment known as necrotizing fasciitis. The condition leads to back blisters and often requires surgery, something which is unfortunately unavailable to Viserys. What do you guys make of this? Let us know below. As usual, thanks for dropping in on us today. And remember to tune in again next week when we will be discussing all sorts of other cool bits and pieces. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. Bye, guys.